Welcome to the show today. We're going to be talking about how to ace social media marketing. We have with us Austin. He is a marketing expert who went from homeless to being seen on Forbes, Business Insider, Social Media Today for his unique social media expertise. Austin helps public figures build their personal brands using unique methodology of personal branding and social media marketing disruption. He is the
Yes.
eruption of social media branding. This is the guy, Mr. Austin. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody who's listening and paying attention right now.
I love your story. I had a chance to read it briefly when I got some of your information. Tell us, how did you get into social media branding?
This is going to be a long and crazy story that I'll make super condensed. Basically, I've been in social media since Facebook, MySpace. It was an emerging thing, and I was in a little upstate town in New York. Everybody was selling business through like newspapers and things like that. And I basically looked at them and I went, "You're all crazy. This is the future. Look what we can do with this." It went really well. And then being young and stupid, it went really bad, really quick. And I ended up becoming homeless and I lost everything. And instead of moving back home with my mom and like doing that whole thing, like rebuilding myself up, I did the craziest thing I could possibly think of. I packed up what little belongings I had, drove down to New York City with no prospects, no money, no opportunities, and slept out of my car on the side of the road for 3 months trying to make it, because I figured, like Jay-Z says, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And because of this, I made a huge mental shift, which I'm really big into personal development, and it allowed me to look at life very differently. Through that mental shift, I actually looked at live streaming, which came out with Meerkat and Periscope, jumped into it. My first live stream that I was on had 3,000 concurrent viewers watching me, which absolutely blew my mind. I was like, if I could get 3,000 people into a room on a stage, I would radically change my life. And here it is. I'm sitting in a Starbucks talking. I don't have a place to sleep. I don't have like prospects, and look at what is happening now. So I dove into this emerging thing called live streaming. I blew up through the various platforms. I was able to work with Periscope, Snapchat, Meerkat, which doesn't exist anymore, TikTok and Lively. It was Musically back in the day, became a feature creator, created viral content on like every single platform. And I've learned so much. That is the very short version of my story. And that's kind of how I got into social media disruption.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. So you started back in the day when there was MySpace. Some people may not even remember what MySpace is, but it was around for a little while. It was literally the first literally big social media platform right before Facebook came out a few years thereafter. So you moved to New York. Now that you're doing this branding and disruption into this area, how has it been so far?
Oh, it's been crazy. It's ups and downs and sideways. And I love it because no 2 days are the same. But it's one of those things that once you get into it, it can be sort of addicting because you're like, okay, let's see what I can do today that is completely off the wall. What crazy idea do I have? Let me throw it out there and see what happens.
So, can you tell us, why do every business needs marketing and social media to be part of their pretty much their plan now today as to reach out to their audience or their clients or customers?
They don't. This is
Oh,
a huge area where people get messed up. Let me caveat this. If you are looking to grow your business, if you are looking to gain more customers, you absolutely need to be on social media. But there are so many businesses that put their time and energy into social media when they really don't need it. They see it as a shiny thing. So it has to make sense for your business. You have to be tracking the right metrics, and it has to make sense in an overall strategy. Then get on it. Now, if let's say it does make sense, then what I'm going to say, because everybody knows you kind of need to be on it to make money and to get customers, it's really inexpensive, all that fun stuff, is you really need a process. The problem is most people who get on social media go, I need more customers. Okay, hey, buy my whatever. And they put it out there and it gets no traction. They don't know what they're doing. There's no strategy. If you have a process, It will allow you to be consistent in the quality of the content you create, consistency in creating that content over time because it's not a one-off thing, and it allows you to test what you're doing and make marginal improvements. You're not going to go viral overnight. This is a misconception. Get it out of your head. Don't chase going viral. Getting marginal improvements over time is massively important because doing that means you will steadily grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and you know what's working and you can track it.
So why do you think most businesses fail at their social media marketing?
They don't have a process, they don't have a strategy, and they try and do it themselves. It's been a 10-year industry. And I can tell you what worked 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago may not work today. And the thing is, when you start, I understand because I did this too. I understand going, okay, I need to learn how to do social media marketing. So I go into Google and I go, how do I do social media marketing? And it's 10 tips to be a social media marketing expert. Create content, be consistent, engage with your audience, blah, 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 right? Yes, those are tried and true methods, but it doesn't get into the weeds of what actually works. It doesn't get into, hey, if you want to grow on Instagram right now, you need to be making shareable content and you need to be doing basically TikToks, but they're called Reels. Those are two ways to grow. So when you go and you post your photo and your selfie and you're like, I'm not getting likes and engagement, it's because you're not using the platform the right way. Instagram, for instance, is moving into a massively popular shopping platform. That's it. If you're in e-commerce, Instagram is the place to be. But like, if you're a personal brand selling a service, get out of Instagram, get out of TikTok. It is too much time and energy you're putting into it for ephemeral content. You need to be looking at YouTube as a platform because it's permanent content. It's search engine optimized driven content.
Wow, I never looked at it that way. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Okay, so that is good. That's very helpful because I never ever would have thought that YouTube would have been that marketplace to actually literally grow. Like I never thought about that. And I think most people haven't.
It's also the hardest platform. Like hands down, I'm going to be honest with everybody. It's 10 years old. So everybody is on there, is established, and you're competing against some big boys. It's highly competitive no matter what your niche is. You have to become really good at presenting, being on camera, video editing, sound design, understanding what scripts work, and then understanding how to use the platform like advertising and search engine optimization. Like, I'm not going to try and like sugarcoat it. It's a beast to learn. But if you learn this platform and you start doing well on this platform, then it translates over into massive long-term sustainable growth.
So if somebody wants to build a personal brand on social media, what platforms do you recommend in that regard?
Okay, personal brand, YouTube. And what I would recommend, well, there are two platforms, honestly, YouTube and Facebook, but for advertising. It's really specific that we focus on the advertising. YouTube for the content, long form content, a video first strategy absolutely dominates. Because if you're creating search engine optimized, which layman's terms, it means what people are putting into the search engine looking for either on Google or YouTube, because YouTube is the #2 search engine. If you create content that answer those questions and you teach, because the best way to build your personal brand is to teach and to educate people on how to actually get where you are, then you will actually grow. And if you understand Facebook for its advertising mechanism, because Facebook is the worst platform in the world, and I would recommend if you don't need it for business to delete it. But if you understand it from the standpoint of how to advertise effectively on Facebook, you can absolutely grow and dominate in a very easy way.
Oh wow, wow. So what so I guess what are some creative ways to kind of help build up your brand? What are some creative ways outside of the normal box, if you will, to kind of create your personal brand on these platforms?
Really, let's break this down. There are 3 ways that effectively you can grow social media. One, it's advertising. So like, for example, I'm doing a little self-plug here. If you're looking to learn Facebook advertising, I have a Skillshare course. Skillshare is a platform with hundreds of creators on there. It's $10 a month. It's ridiculously inexpensive. And you can learn Facebook advertising. I've taught like 5,000 students on there. It's a perfect platform. You don't need to spend $300, $500, $1,000, $997 to learn Facebook advertising. $10. It's really worth it. So learn advertising. It's highly effective. That's one tried and true method to grow, because really that's how the social media platforms make their money. When you advertise, you're working with them. The second way to grow is through outrage marketing. It is really look at any major person you see. They've either been in here for 10 years grinding away, or they got really famous for making a lot of people angry. And it works so freaking well. And you can leverage that if you want. I don't particularly like it, but I've done it and it works. So there's an out of a box solution. The third way is looking at emerging social medias. Right now, trying to grow in like Facebook organically is just massively difficult. But if you look at TikTok, which is an emerging social media, Musically back in the day, live streaming when I started, you get so much momentum for the energy you put in. So like right now, the new one everybody is talking about is Anchor, but it's only for iPhones. Getting on there and becoming consistent and dominating and playing around and building your audience on there allows you to grow exponentially. And then you can shift that over into a more established platform.
Oh, wow. Wow. So it's definitely good to go into an emerging platform in order to build up your existing platform elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Oh,
There's
wow.
massive YouTube creators who came over because of Musically and TikTok, which is like the newest one. They built up millions of followers over there and they said, hey, come follow me over here. And they're massive. The same thing when Vine was the big thing.
That's true.
Like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, those two guys who are massive creators on YouTube started and got big on Vine. And it's the 6-second platform that doesn't exist anymore. And then when it shut down, they were already shifting all of their people over to YouTube.
That is so true. That is so true. So Vine is no more of existence, if you will. Nobody really look at Vine or listen to Vine anymore. They're on YouTube or other places. Do you think so? What do you think about the Snapchat app? What do you think that space is really for?
So I have to caveat this. I built my reputation in Snapchat. I was a long time lover of Snapchat. The idea of the snaps as a storytelling mechanism, hugely powerful, because the best way to get creative is limit yourself. Limitation creates creativity. I was very limited when I had no money, so I got really creative on how to acquire resources. All legal, by the way. That sounded really bad. Anyways, so Snapchat is a really interesting platform because they did not support their major creators when they were really getting a push a few years ago. And those major creators left Snapchat. This, may have been intentional, but now they call themselves a camera company. They're not really a social media company. So I don't know. They still have a user base. It's a young user base. And if you have the resources to be a creator and a publisher on Snapchat as a brand, go for it, because it's the best way to engage with that market and their demographic. But for like you and I, like normal people, it's so ephemeral of content. It disappears so fast, and you have to put so much resources into the content you're creating. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Go into something that is a little bit more longer lasting, and you can get more run for the time and energy you put into it.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that. And that does make sense because the content disappears really fast. Wow. So you do public speaking as well. Is
Yes.
it in regards to just building social media, or is this the back lay of your story? Do you add that into your public speaking when you're giving advice to others?
Sure. It's a little bit of all. So I obviously have a very inspirational story, and people like to hear it and I like to tell it. So I have that whole component. Being a marketing expert, I do workshops and I talk about social media. So sometimes I dive super heavily into that. Lately, because of this pandemic and kind of the shift everybody is making, I've been doing entire workshops on teaching executives how to be super charismatic on camera, because learning how to project yourself and be on camera and engage your audience or your stakeholders is so good for your bottom line. Because if you don't know how to communicate and sell and get people excited, they're not going to hit those objectives. Your customers aren't going to purchase. You know, that big thing you're trying to score, while you can't be face to face talking to them and, you know, sharing that energy, you lose that contract. That sucks. So it's a very easy way of improving, is working with me, building you up, building your team up. So that's kind of what I've been up to so far.
Oh, awesome. So tell us, how can we find you? I know you have a website,
Yes.
and I did look at your Instagram page a little while, but when someone wants to get involved into learning more and going and taking some of your seminars or classes that you do host to kind of help them with social media, how do we contact you in that
So
regard?
the easiest way is through my website, Austin, AustinIuliano.com. That's austinuliano.com. You can also email me directly, austinuliano@gmail.com. So if you want to work with me, that's a great way. If you're looking to learn more about public speaking and how to grow and social media and become better, I actually have a brand new YouTube channel that I started a little bit ago, Austin Iuliano on YouTube. It teaches you how to be a more effective public speaker on and off stage. So you can go check that out, kind of start consuming some of that content and watch me grow on a brand new platform, because I love doing it.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Austin, for joining us today, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Next